Broadcasting live from the moon and back, this is The Coin Chat, the most trusted voice for all things cryptocurrency. Each week we dissect an important issue and cut through the noise and misinformation out there in the world of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and ICOs, capturing the facts that truly matter to you that will give you an edge in this fast-moving emerging market. The who, what, where, when, and how of what you need to know in crypto to get ahead so you don't get left behind. Now here are your co-hosts, financial and crypto experts Yuri Cataldo and Steve Good.
Hey, this is Steve Good on the Coin Chat with my co-host Yuri Cataldo, and today we are joined by Bitcoin Benny, otherwise known as Ben Fairbanks, CEO of Komodo, now CEO of RedFox. Benny, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Bitcoin Benny, welcome to the show.
That was good.
Yeah, cool.
That was a lovely dramatic pause. I thought you were going to add more titles to Benny.
I was thinking it's like the mother of dragons, and she's got like the breaker of chains, and she's got this, and she's got... I was running out of names for Benny here, really, honestly.
Most people just call me excuse me.
Breaker of exchanges, or...
Excuse me.
Yeah. Breaking a few exchanges, yes. Guilty.
So, well, I mean, listen, welcome to the show. I mean, we've been talking
Thank you.
for quite a long time, and we've known each other through the YouTubing community. And naturally, as you know, we've been speaking to Komodo, mostly to CA333, otherwise known as Caden, a couple of times. And we even ran a competition with Komodo, which is a whole separate discussion, and someone figured out the puzzle magically, which was really cool. But today we really want to talk about what you're doing with RedFox, and of course many people who are not aware of what RedFox is and how it's even related to Komodo. So why don't you just start by telling us, what did the fox say?
Okay. Good question. I won't do the singing. I'm pretty awful at that. But essentially, you do that too well.
I have little boys. I've practiced. Don't worry. Anyway, over to you, mate.
That sounds like something your old parents would say. The actual RedFox actually came about with when we were obviously working with Komodo. Komodo is an open source platform, as you know. As the interest came about and as they sort of overcame the issues of scalability, they obviously had privacy in the beginning and interoperability. What happened was we started thinking, okay, some big businesses are getting interested in this, but Komodo is not really a company. How do we actually take this to the next level? So the logical progression was to say, let's look at what Red Hat did for Linux, and let's treat Komodo as Linux and RedFox as Red Hat. And why don't we go and actually build out commercial-grade, enterprise-level businesses on top of Komodo's technology? So let's not wait for people to come to Komodo, work it out, build it up for themselves, which is something that we obviously need to happen in parallel. But we thought what we should have is something that actually builds out on top, that is a legitimate business and can sign deals with these big heavyweight corporates. So that's how it came about.
And just to put this in context for a second, so Red Hat being a company that when it first launched out, people thought it was a bit of is this a joke? Because they were building on top of open source Linux. And they went from nothing to this unicorn that sold for $36 billion to, I think it was IBM, right? So look at this and compare it. What you're describing, in my opinion anyway, or the way I'm reading this is, you're describing what could potentially be a true unicorn in the sense of what Red Hat did for open source in the Linux world. You're going to replicate conceptually some of those aspects, but do it in your own way, but in blockchain, leveraging the underlying tech of Komodo.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that some people that are not familiar with the Linux model and the Red Hat model kind of get stuck in that a little bit and sort of say, I don't really understand what you're trying to do. Like, Komodo's already awesome. And Komodo is already awesome. But the thing is, much the same as with Linux, the end user couldn't just come along and say, I'm going to use Linux and I'm going to use it in everything that I use on a daily basis. Whereas what we're trying to say is, let's build out businesses that are not only needed but are demanded in emerging markets. Let's build out a business that is solving a problem, that's using blockchain technology, and let's make it so that the end user doesn't even need to realize they're using blockchain technology. And that's the biggest thing that I struggle with, and I'm sure you do, and everybody in blockchain is, how do I get a wallet? How do I send money to an exchange? What happens if I click the wrong address? What happens if I make a mistake? I'm scared. What if I get hacked? What we want to do is say, here's a business that you're used to using, something that you're very familiar with. It runs on blockchain in the background. You don't need to know about that. And this is, I think we're much better off to try and take mass adoption to the people rather than waiting for the people to come and mass adopt technology that's not quite ready and not quite finished yet.
Yeah.
So it's very simple. It's a very simple idea, and it's been done before. We're not trying to say that we're reinventing the wheel. We're doing something that has been very successful, and we're copying people that have been very successful at it, and we're just providing a new element. It's as simple as that.
What you're describing is no different than any other tech startup that starts off typically with techies. And I've seen this time and again in my career working in fintech and working with startups and software companies where eventually somewhere along the way they were successful, but to the point where they didn't actually know how to take it to market. And you end up bringing business people in who've come from industry, who understand real technology, understand sales, understand marketing. And they say, hang on a second, you have a gold mine here. It's good, but it's so much better than you realize. And when you start putting all the marketing engine and the sales engine and hiring salespeople, building out consulting services, having people opening up accounts and building out new capabilities and new services, suddenly the whole thing turns into something because it's all made available to the public. And that's effectively, from what you're saying, it's the same idea, isn't it? It's just we're doing it yet again in another software sector, only this time it's with blockchain, which is probably one of the first times we're seeing it being done.
Well, let me be honest with you. I was drawn to Komodo because I thought it was the most advanced, from a technical perspective, the most advanced project in space, and I thought it had the greatest chance of first getting to that end-to-end status. And the thing is that what I did in my time there so far is I've really realised how passionate the group of people that work on the project are, and you've met them, you know how they don't talk about price, they don't shill, they don't try and do like huge marketing campaigns, which is a criticism of theirs. But the thing that's very important to understand is that you've got two options. You can either go in there, and someone like me can go in there and say, right, we corporatize this, we bring in revenue streams, we completely change it, everyone wears a suit and a tie sort of mentality. Or you can say, the reason that Komodo is so great is because it is the way it is. But if we want that to go to the next level, we should build something that doesn't screw with what's already a successful formula. We should build something that we know how to do on the side that complements it, that works in unison with it, that helps it to grow by upstream sharing and by actually building out the same vision. And we both get to go to the exact same place. We're both helping Komodo, and we become simpatico. We really rely on each other. And as you said, look what happened to Red Hat. The kernel for Linux is worth 13 billion.
Yeah.
The kernel.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, if we are successful at what we're doing, this will take Komodo to that next level.
Right.
That it needs to go to, and it will allow Komodo to remain Komodo.
So explain for people, my reaction might be, oh my God, what's going to happen to Komodo? But what you're saying is Komodo is open source the way Linux was, and Linux didn't go away. So what's the plan for, because there's different, so one thing I know, because I'm familiar with Komodo, and a lot of people may not know this, is you have Komodo, the underlying open source tech, and you have kind of your enterprise Komodo stuff, right? Can you just describe for people the relationship between Komodo, enterprise Komodo, and RedFox for everybody?
Yeah, sure. So Komodo, so RedFox will focus on the enterprise side for Komodo and of Komodo. And this is why, I guess this is the question that leads on from what you're saying is, you've got JL777 as an advisor and obviously will help out with a lot of the core tech, and you've got CA333 as the CTO of RedFox as well. And I got criticized in the beginning. People were saying, how are you going to look after Komodo and also do RedFox? I mean, there's heaps of people that run multiple companies, like your Elon Musks of the world and all the rest of it. Not that I'm comparing myself to him, but what I'm saying is these two roles are very, very
better looking, though, of course. So
but these two roles are very. Let me put it this way: 50% of my time building the business side of Komodo, more than 50% of my time is in front of corporates saying, can you sign this? Can you do this deal with us? And we don't do partnerships because we're not a company, Komodo. So this sort of actually makes what I've already been doing for Komodo easier. And suddenly there's structure to it, and suddenly it works. But what we also wanted to do was do that line of separation and make sure that people understand that Komodo will always remain that open source desktop code level, version of Komodo that everybody loves. But we're starting to produce stuff on top of that now, independent of RedFox on the enterprise side, like your mobile wallets and your mobile dexes and your chain creation through AWS and all the rest of it. It needs a home, needs a house. And what we need to start doing is, instead of saying, let's get 4 or 5 talented individuals to look after a wide range of products that never really get the love they need, we're better off to say, let's look at each of these products as a business and have teams running this. If you look at BBK, you look at a whole heap of these companies that are coming up now, they do one little part of what Komodo does, and they've got a whole team behind it, and they try and drive that to success. That's a very similar model that Komodo can employ down the track and make sure that each of the products that they release gets the GUIs, the adoption, the focus, the marketing, the attention. Komodo people will absolutely welcome this, because the long-term goal for everybody is to make Komodo mass adopted. That's always been the vision.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yuri's, I just wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to ask here, because you've usually got really insightful questions.
Usually does. I know. I'm fascinated by this actual product. So Benny, I'm curious. Where did you come up with the name RedFox? Like, I get the red part. Where's the fox part come from?
Oh, the fox. We're based in Southeast Asia because we wanted to be where the emerging markets were, and the fox is considered to be a shrewd, trustworthy, and good decision maker, and it's also very synonymous with stock markets in the Asian region as well. So it's
Really?
it's a very symbolic, trusted animal. So red fox was a logical option for us.
And red is a good luck color in Asia as well, isn't it?
To be honest, red and black are my 2 favorite colors as well. So I've always got a strong bias towards those, because they're strong. They're strong for branding. They're strong for marketing. And let's be honest, we want to do what Komodo didn't do. Komodo's concentrating on the code. We want to concentrate on that, on brands that are synonymous and strong branding, and we want to make sure that we hit the areas that Komodo didn't hit. Otherwise, 2 companies are doing the exact same thing, and it would be fruitless.
Right. So let me ask you a question then that's a little bit tougher.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
So this is something that I'm sure people are going to ask about, because of course Komodo has its own coin. And you start to look at, well, hang on a second, you guys are going to use the Komodo tech, and it's open source, and you're going to do your stuff on top of that, but they're running their own thing. How do you create your own economic environment with what's it called? It's the red, what's the coin called? The Fox coin? The RFox coin, right. So
sure.
What's the relationship between an RFox coin and a Komodo coin? Is there any sort of relationship between them? And what does an RFox coin represent in terms of a tokenomic environment within the environment, community, companies, subsidiaries, stuff?
I'll answer the RFox one first, because by answering the RFox one, I'm effectively answering and helping to appease some of the worry that you might have in relation to KMD.
Oh, I'm not worried, but but I think they're just questions that I think are fair questions that people would ask.
Yeah, for sure, 100% for sure. But you think about this, as you probably know with Komodo, every chain that's created is an independent blockchain. So you think about this. Let's just say that we've been pretty open with the first 3 projects that we're going to do. So one of them will be in education on demand, because that's massive in the Asian region. And you can't get white teachers or English-speaking teachers to come over to Asia and live in the provinces. So now they'd be able to sit there and use a mobile phone and do on-demand English lessons with American or English teachers. I don't want to get too far into that because it'll digress, but people say, how does that have anything to do with blockchain? They've never been able to do it because they don't know how to protect the IP to authenticate the qualifications. We can do that with blockchain. Anyway, we would have that. Now, people are going to say, I don't want to have a wallet and a coin and all that stuff to be able to use this. Fair enough. We would have, and this has come into play now with Komodo and the technology, we'd be able to have what is in essence side chains, so that the technology that backs up the businesses that we build are using the core technology that is shared, and the RFox token would be used each time there is a transaction on that platform. We don't need to create a coin for the sake of creating a coin every time we build out a company. This is the common mistake that people currently make, is they say, hey, we can have a coin to it, we can have a coin to it, we can do a sale and we can make money. Now, we'll be able to actually utilize that for each and every single one of those businesses that doesn't require a coin. As the same, and Komodo as it builds out more and more products, would be able to have the same type of thing happening as well, whether it's on the enterprise or the open source